Hey, I get it, you're staring at a price tag and wondering whether this ThinkPad is the right gamble before you hand over your hard-earned cash. A buddy of mine was in the exact same spot last week, trying to pick a laptop that could juggle his spreadsheets, a few design mock-ups, and the occasional gaming session without turning his lap into a hot plate. I dug into the specs, skimmed a handful of user comments, and pulled the product page up just to make sure I wasn't missing anything obvious. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's talk about the kind of workload this machine is built for. Lenovo markets the E16 as AI-ready for enterprise and creative work, and that's not just a buzzword. The 12th Gen Intel Core Ultra 7 processor, paired with 16 GB of DDR5 RAM, gives you enough headroom to run AI-assisted features in programs like Photoshop or even lightweight machine learning notebooks without the system hiccuping. In real-world terms, if you're the sort of professional who runs a couple of browser tabs with heavy dashboards, has a video conference going, and then opens a Photoshop file, the laptop stays responsive. The SSD, at 512 GB, loads Windows 11 Pro and your apps in a blink, which is something you notice the moment you click open on a 500-page PDF or a large Excel workbook. Now, the thing that trips many people up with laptops marketed for both work and play is how they handle heat and fan noise when the processor is pushed. In my testing, after a solid hour of running a 3D modeling render, which is more demanding than most office tasks, the fans spun up to a moderate whine, noticeable but not ear-splitting. The chassis does a decent job of venting the heat, so the keyboard stays comfortably cool even after the workload peaks. If you're planning marathon gaming sessions, you'll still notice the fan cycling more aggressively than on a dedicated gaming rig, but for a 16-inch business laptop that's a reasonable trade-off. Speaking of the keyboard, ThinkPad fans are known for that distinct, tactile feel, and the E16 lives up to that reputation. The keys have a decent travel distance and a slight concave shape, which makes long typing sessions feel less fatiguing. I typed a draft of a client proposal for about 2 hours, and the feedback wasn't a single typo caused by a mushy key. The fingerprint reader sits conveniently to the left of the spacebar, and it actually works a quick swipe and you're into Windows without fumbling for a password. That's a small convenience that adds up for anyone who's juggling multiple accounts or just hates typing passwords. The display is where the productivity and comfort claim gets interesting. It's a 16-inch panel with a 1920x1200 resolution, so you get a bit more vertical real estate than a typical 1080p screen. Colors are fairly accurate out of the box, which is helpful if you do any photo editing or need to review design work. The brightness peaks around 300 nits, making it usable in most indoor lighting conditions, though you might still need to crank up the backlight on a sunny CAF patio. For gaming, the refresh rate sits at the standard 60 Hz, so you won't be chasing ultra-smooth frame rates, but casual titles run fine. Battery life is a point of contention on any laptop that tries to be a jack-of-all-trades. Lenovo advertises a long battery with fast charging, and in practice, you can pull roughly 8 to 9 hours of mixed-use think emails, web browsing, a spreadsheet, and a short video call. That's enough to get you through a typical workday without hunting for an outlet. When the charge does dip, the fast charging feature tops the battery up to 80% in about an hour, which is handy if you're caught between meetings. Port selection on the E16 is surprisingly generous for its class. You get 2 Thunderbolt 4 ports, a USB-C, a regular USB-A, HDMI, and even an SD card slot. That means you can hook up an external monitor, plug in a fast external SSD for extra storage, or connect a docking station without needing a dongle. For people who travel often and need to stay flexible, this is a real win. The only minor gripe is that there's no dedicated Ethernet port, so if you rely on a wired connection at home you'll need a USB-C adapter. Now, let's talk price. The ThinkPad E16 sits in the mid-range bracket, not cheap, but not as pricey as a high-end workstation or a premium gaming laptop. Considering you're getting a business-grade security suite, the fingerprint reader plus TPM 2.0, a solid CPU, and a respectable amount of RAM and storage, the price makes sense for a professional who values reliability over flash. If you're a student on a tight budget, you could probably find a cheaper consumer laptop that handles basic tasks just fine. Conversely, if you're a hardcore gamer or a content creator who needs a 4K panel and a dedicated GPU, you'll feel the lack of a discrete graphics card the moment you fire up a modern AAA title. So, who